Today, we sit and talk with Jeff Troldahl, a Minnesota artist who grew up dreaming of life as a rock and roll roadie. Not really as a fan, but rather as an artist who would eventually use his creativity to give some of the biggest bands in the industry their colorful identities. Problem was, the fast life on the road made Jeff realize just what he was missing back home. It is a moment that led Jeff to a sort of new artistic creation and an almost cult following by those of us who love life on the trail, in the boat, or in the woods. Hey there, Bill Sherck, the man about the woods for the Minnesota Historical Society. I have an idea for you. You need to visit the Forest History Center near Grand Rapids. You can learn about the history of Minnesota's Great North Woods and also the lumberjacks who lived and worked there. You can explore a recreated 1900s-era logging camp on the Mississippi River. You can also visit a 1930s forest ranger's cabin. You can climb the fire tower, walk the trails, and check out interactive exhibits about Minnesota's forests of yesterday and today. Learn more at mnhs.org/Forest History Center. So it's a funny thing. When I am on the road, either for work or with the family, I am always looking for that next story, right? It's just kind of part of who I am. And a couple seasons back, we found quite a doozy just by chance, and it led to a new friendship. And isn't that what it's all about? Hey, everybody, Bill Sherck, the man about the woods. Welcome to the Minnesota Bound podcast, The Stories Behind the Stories. You know, as an outdoor journalist or outdoor schmuck, whatever my title is, again, we're always looking for stories. And I walked into a fly shop and there was the hat rack, and I'm always looking at the cool new lids. And there was a hat with a custom painted fish that my kid pointed out and said, "Dad, that's a cool one. I want to have that." And of course, I grabbed the hat and looked to see if I could find some sort of name. And there it was, hand scribed, and made a call, led to a Minnesota Bound story. And again, more importantly, led to a friendship. Jeff Troldahl was the name scribbled on that hat in silver pen paint. And Jeff, how many times have you put your autograph on a hat?
Oh, geez, I would guess at least several hundred times, at least maybe 500 or so.
It is where these hats came from that is such a story for you. You and I have talked before, but today I want to dig a little bit deeper into that story because from what I know about you, this was a big transition in life. So let's go back in time a little bit and start. We'll forget about the hats for a second and start with you as a kid. Like, what kind of kid were you?
Well, I'd like to say I was a perfect child, but I don't believe that's true. I was I've been told by my mother and my grandmother over the years that it was always interesting of the projects I had going on at home and the things I was doing and building and making. And I seemed to always have to create something. So I've always had a creative gene in myself.
So I don't want to age you, but like Lincoln Log cabins, erector sets,
Legos,
spirograph.
Light Brights. Never had a spirograph, though. My son has one now, and I wish I might have had one back then. A lot of we did a lot of coloring in our house. There's a big old bucket of crayons, and we spent a lot of time with coloring books. And I remember long ago trying to stay in the lines like my brother could and my babysitters could and things like that, and trying to do everything the older kids were doing or do something a little bit better. But I just always had to make something, and I was always making birthday cards and or any holiday card, so to speak, and art gifts for my family. And things just kind of kept going, I guess.
So you always liked it or were attracted to it or just good at it?
Absolutely. I think it was maybe second or third grade. I told my teacher I wanted to grow up and be an architect because I thought that was the art job in the world, to be an architect. I still do, but I haven't found that one yet.
Well, my cousin is an architect, and strangely enough, he still uses crayons. There are many Whole Foods buildings that were drawn by crayon.
Perfect.
All right, so you get through school. I mean, you go to high school. Are you thinking art is going to be a career at this point?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it was a plan. I mean, I wasn't planning on picking an art college or anything in elementary school, but it was a plan to always be an artist. And I was always interested in music. I think my father took me to Beatlemania, the play, long ago, and then when Grease came out, he said, "This is going to be a movie you're really going to like."
Wow.
And it was a musical, obviously, and that kind of set me into this world of music, and I ended up digging through my folks' vinyl piles and found a whole bunch of Beatles and Kingston Trio and Elvis and Buddy Holly and all that good stuff, and that just kind of led in my love of music, and then I thought I'd be a guitarist at some point. A lot of time in front of the mirror, rocking out to my favorite songs, but I was always drawing, and there's just times when you're a kid that if you've kind of got that creative edge, it stands out a little bit. At an open house at school or whatever, somebody else's parent might say something about your fish is so good or whatever it is you might have drawn, and that stuck with me. I really appreciated that attention.
The positive reinforcement.
Yeah, and then
in my case, it was Bill, stop eating the crayons.
I had a pencil chewing problem too, but not the colored stuff, just the pencils.
So my dad had Kingston Trio on vinyl. Does your collection still exist by chance?
It does. The vinyl is not out and accessible because of the age of my children.
Yeah, protecting it a little bit.
But my oldest niece at some point in time, a few years back, turned to me and asked if I owned Pink Floyd The Wall on vinyl, and I had to turn away and wipe my tears and turn back and say yes, but you may never borrow it, which is not true. But yeah, that absolutely. And then I spent many years working at Musicland, good 6 or 7 years, and my CD collection is immense. Far too big, but it's all that. I still have all that.
So what are we supposed to do? I don't want to get off topic here, but what are we supposed to do with our CD collections?
I'm waiting for them to come back.
Because they still sound amazing.
Absolutely. And you still, every once in a while, I'll find myself in somebody's car that still has a CD player, and then I'll run back in the house and grab what I can find. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just hoping at some point in time they make a big comeback and I can do something with my collection.
I used to be the guy who had the scratch remover thing. So you'd put it in with a little bit of the solution. You'd crank for half an hour and nothing would happen. So you'd crank and crank and crank. And eventually the skips would get a little better. All right, let's get back to your story. So you go off to art school, college?
Oh, but what I was going to say, too, is at some point after all that, my cousin introduced me to the band Kiss. And they, at the time, had Kiss trading cards.
Yep.
And, Kiss was kind of Kiss dolls. I had all 4 of them, I believe. Maybe not all 4, but I had a few. Just that was at my age, that was just the pull on music. I was like, this is amazing. They're breathing fire, they're fireworks, the whole works going on. And that from then on out, I was destined to do an album at some point in my life. So then then came high school, or junior high school, I guess, in high school. And I started to get all sorts of different side jobs in high school. I would do everything from I would paint everybody's Converse high tops for prom, or I would make shirts for different groups going to the school dances.
Yes.
Some of the school sports, I got to make like shirts for the teams and things like that. I created a Hornet for an Edina hockey team for junior gold one year that they apparently still use to this day, which I'm quite proud of. If you find it, it's not, the safest drawing out there of a Hornet, but it's quite entertaining. And the fact they still use it, he's given two number ones in a special way.
Yeah. Exactly.
But when I see the coach to this day, who's still the same coach, they flip me the bird. It's just great.
So what I think is amazing is at this point, most people who I think eventually become artists, they're like drawing, scribbles in their 3-ring binders during class, but you were kind of established.
Well, there was a lot of that. I think if we could pull out some of my old school papers, the entire borders are filled with doodles and things. There was a year of testing that I decided to just do designs in the make designs on the test scores or on the sheets. But I was kind of known, I think, from the get-go by my friends and my group that I was the artist in the group. And then junior high, I started taking lessons outside of school, art classes and things. And
Wow.
That's when it got a little more serious, I guess.
So working at Musicland was high school?
Musicland was after college. So
Yeah.
I was.
All right, so you go off to college. Let's get to college first.
Yeah.
Where?
College of Associate Arts
Okay.
in St. Paul,
Mhm.
which unfortunately does not exist anymore.
You brought them to their knees.
They're like, enough is enough. We gotta. This is it. We're done. But I did 2 years at Hennepin Tech.
Yep.
In Eden Prairie, and then I did 3 more years at College of Associated Arts in St. Paul.
Studying history and different.
Yeah, I got a bachelor in fine arts, a minor in illustration, and a major in design communications. So at the time, I thought I was just going to get into the graphic design and graphics world and not so much the illustration and all that.
Musicland comes along, which for anyone listening who doesn't remember Musicland, for us, it was the place. I mean, that's where you went to get your music.
Absolutely.
If it wasn't some little corner shop, it was Musicland.
Absolutely. And if your mother took you to the mall, that's where you were.
Right. What was their main color? Was it orange or was it something else?
It was gold and
Gold.
maroon.
Yeah.
It's almost like a offset of McDonald's.
But cooler.
But those were buying colors. Those were those colors that would inspire you in the mall to spend money, apparently.
So you're working at Musicland, and then one day something major happens.
Well, there was about 4 or 5 years at Musicland, and just about every week something enormous happened, whether it was Dolly Parton coming in to promote her new album, and she was coming to speak to the sales teams and everyone in the building, or huge Frank Sinatra release would go out, or Dave Matthews there's always something going on because it was Musicland. They were covering everybody. But what happened was somebody went off and invented this thing called the internet. And I was in meetings with all the heads of all the record labels, just kind of sitting back in the dark corner, just in case they needed a sign in a store somewhere about whatever they were talking about. But the meetings were about back catalog and where people, nobody knew exactly how the internet was going to work out. nobody was planning on building all these stores and retail at the time. I'm sure it was a thought, but it wasn't. Nobody knew it was coming. Um, and all of a sudden, they were talking about the fact that you could go to a few different stores like Target or Best Buy, and you could buy a new released album. But you could never go to those stores again and buy an old album. You couldn't get any back catalog on your favorite band. So they were trying to figure out how in the world that was going to work and what they would do to keep that going. And then now, obviously, it's all online, and you can get anything and more that you're looking for because it's all available. But then there's still now your corner shops where they're, have got boxes of whatever, and then it's gotten to the point you have to be lucky to find.
Yeah, you'd click through the A bin trying to find a certain album, and
yeah, hope it's there and hope it's not scratched.
Look, Air Supply, $9.99 in good shape.
Exactly. So it's that for me kind of became and I having spent a few years working for Musicland, I got to know my favorite bands through the labels that were in town to work with Musicland.
Which were what bands? Give us a rough list of a few.
Well, the number one band for me was Widespread Panic. They're a jam band that's been around since late '80s. They're out of the South, and they were at the time playing on a label called Capricorn, and I happened to be starting to work for Johnny Lang here in town, and he had some ties with his people with Capricorn, and so I started to meet the reps there and everything and let them know what my interests were really lying. And then because of my position at Musicland, when these bands would show up or something would come up, I would get a call directly from Capricorn, and they'd say, the band's coming in if you want to come say hello or drop your business card off type of thing.
Wow.
But then they also, Government Mule and some of the Allman Brothers bands were on that, Side Shoot bands were on that label too. So it was one of those things where I was just kind of showing up and smiling as much as possible.
At this point of your life, are you doing anything outdoors? Is there any fish camp hunt in your life at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. It's always been fishing for me. We were everything from going to nearby lakes, friends' cabins, going up north, Mille Lacs, nothing major. We did a lot of fishing trips as a family, and when my father passed away, those just we just weren't so excited to do them without him, and they just kind of dwindled, and time went by, and my brother and I talk about it all the time now with my sons, about taking them back to the places we were up north and all that. But it's been a lot of fishing with my good friends from when I was a child that have been fishing and hunting more than ever since day one. And then I just kind of got back in touch with them, and that led to, it was maybe early in the 2000s that we started going out west and going fly fishing. But during college, it was all kind of in between parties.
Yeah, right. For all of us, right?
Yeah.
But those trips would change you and make you miss. We'll get to that in a second. But first I want to thank some of the sponsors that help make this podcast happen. It's the Minnesota Bound podcast, the stories behind the stories. Jeff Troldahl is my guest today, and we're about to get to a doozy. First up, we'd like to thank North Dakota.
Hey everybody, Bill Sherck, the man about the woods. It's time to plan your fall hunt in North Dakota. Get this, with an estimated 3.4 million breeding ducks, North Dakota's central region is prime habitat for hunting waterfowl. In fact, right now, the state's breeding duck index sits 38% above the long-term average, and the water's up too. The spring water index is up 616% over 2021. That's a good thing. Now, when you consider that North Dakota has approximately 700,000 acres of private land open to public walk-in hunting, guess what? You've got an outdoor oasis. For the latest information about public hunting lands and private land open to sportsmen and women, visit North Dakota Game and Fish Department. Bag your limit this fall in North Dakota. Visit legendarynd.com.
Also, we'd like to thank Hewitt Docks.
Hewitt Docks, Lifts, and Pontoon Legs began in a small south-central Minnesota town with a mission to make dock install and removal easier by inventing the Rolodock. Well, now the company has evolved to provide everything you might need to improve your lake time. In addition to the classic Rolodock or the new Ultra Dock system, Hewitt offers all-terrain staircases, gangways, canopies, and lifts, along with any accessory you might need. Celebrate 50 years of business with us. Go to HewittRad.com to enter for a chance to win a free dock and monthly prizes. Hewitt Docks, Lifts, and Pontoon Legs. Work hard, play harder. You deserve a Hewitt.
And the Minnesota Propane Association.
Reducing carbon emissions is good for everyone. But how do we reduce emissions while also meeting our world's increasing energy needs? Using propane is an excellent way to reduce emissions while meeting energy needs today. Propane is a clean, non-toxic energy source that helps reduce carbon emissions right now. In fact, propane's carbon intensity score in Minnesota is only 80. Grid electricity in Minnesota, including wind and solar, has a much higher carbon intensity score of 136. Who knew that using propane was much cleaner than electricity? Plus, the abundance of propane and growth of renewable propane means it can be used for generations to come. Millions of Americans rely on propane to heat their homes and businesses, fuel vehicles on road and off, and much more, making propane the right energy right now. Find out more about what propane can do for you and the environment by going to propane.com.
All right, Jeff. So you're working at Music Land. You're meeting people from some of the biggest parts of that industry. At some point, you go to work for those big bands. Doing what?
Well, in the you mean while I was at Musicland or when after I left?
You kind of broke and
I
hit the road, so
did,
to speak.
I did. I just kind of laid my letter down on the desk and headed out. And at that time, I left on a Friday and I went to work for Best Buy on a Monday freelancing and did a Stevie Nicks album, a Pearl Jam album, and a couple other ones, Led Zeppelin album, a couple giveaways that they were doing.
And what were you doing specifically?
I was creating the entire package. So the CD package. I was designing the cover and the insides, and then those type of jobs, they're never quite just ready to be put together. They're always working out time on the CD and the songs and order and all these different things. And when it's a corporate giveaway, it's even more of a trail of approvals, so to speak. It takes a while. But like at the time, the Pearl Jam CD was coming out after a new release of their album, and Best Buy was planning to give it away if you purchased another Pearl Jam item at their store. But for me, it was, I was just head over heels sitting in front of my computer looking at the name Pearl Jam on my screen every day.
Right.
Just amazing stuff and listening to them. And it's was a special release from Australia. It was a live release because they'll allow their music to be recorded live as long as it's not being used for somebody else to make money. But so it was all kind of special stuff. And the Stevie Nicks album, it was the same kind of thing. There was some special tracks on it and just things you wouldn't get to be a part of until you bought the album at the store. But I would just kind of more or less be involved in meetings and planning and all that. And then I go home and would create several different ideas, concepts, preliminary things as much as I could, and then put those into a presentation form and go back to these meetings and present everything, and everybody puts in their 2 cents and 10 cents or $200 or whatever they're putting in, and then I go back and put it in the crayon blender again and keep going back and forth, and finally land on something, and and then of course the band is on the side somewhere approving things as well, which is sometimes you get to speak with them, and sometimes it's just kind of a yes or no kind of answer. But and that was right in the beginning when I got out of there. But then I went on the road with Johnny Lang for a few years as his photographer, and there I was doing everything from coming up with new merch, kind of paying attention to what people were buying, or going to other concerts and researching, which was always fun for that kind of stuff. But I was kind of on the road creating more things for the fans, if that's a good way to put it. But then kind of absorbing the vibes and things of the bands too, and some of them. The different I did a Cheap Trick album, their 25th anniversary album, and ended up with some behind the scenes backstage photos and things that just things you wouldn't come across. Or even more fun was a compilation CD Musicland gave away at a Twins game, and it was a music night themed deal at that game, and if you went and with your ticket you got a free CD from Musicland. But I got to go into the basement of the Twins stadium and go through all the archives. So I pulled out a picture of Rod Carew playing a bass, bathtub bass in the locker room, and just things that who knew they existed kind of stuff, and then lay out this CD package. So, when a fan gets home, and big baseball person or whatever, and maybe they're not a huge music fan, gets home and opens this thing up, there would be pictures of these athletes that nobody had ever seen before, and just collectible stuff. And then, hopefully that will lead them to listening to the CD and learning stuff about new bands, and then the big hope is they go back to the store and buy those CDs. But then vice versa too. If you're a music fan and not big on baseball, then it's good you're at a baseball game. But just kind of tying all that together and bringing it, those different types of things. It's always it's always different, but it's always. Exciting is a weak word for that, but it's a lot of fun.
But you're on a pedestal. You're doing things that a lot of us regular Joes would give a leg to experience, right? You're with these people. You're seeing these things, and maybe that leads me to the question, for us commoners, what's life on the road like? Is it what we have in our heads? Is it sex, drugs, and rock and roll, 8 days a week? Or is it, no, it's actually, we have a calendar, we keep a daily itinerary, we're in bed at 9:00, and
it's, well, two things. One is, I think we need to turn this around and talk to you about why you think you're a commoner, because you, sir, are not a commoner. But there is a unbelievable misinterpretation of the world of backstage in rock and roll life. I think in my experience, I think all that fun and partying was more in the 80s.
I was going to say Tommy Lee, baby.
Yeah.
I've seen the reality show.
And in those bands, that was almost as important as the music was the party. Maybe not a good way to say it, as big as the music. But from my experience, backstage can be fun. The newer bands that are just getting out there, big parties, lots of fun, all sorts of people. The bigger bands that have been around, they've got it down so they can survive, I think, away from their families and on the road forever. I've been with some of the biggest bands that I think the world probably thinks it is a sex, drug, and rock and roll deal all year, and they will not allow you backstage if you smell or look like you've been consuming alcohol. They just don't want that going on. And there's all kinds of bands that, sometimes fans get a little out of line, and I think a lot of these groups have run into that, and they are just done with it, and they don't want to let that happen, and they kind of screen the people they let backstage. But that's not to say too that there's that Tommy Lee show is still going on somewhere. He's on tour, I think, so that's going on somewhere. But it's amazing, and it's kind of like a pinch yourself situation. But it's much more organized because they have to put on a good show, or they're not coming back to your city, or they're not going on tour again and all that. So there's some give and take there, I think, if that's the right way to put it.
I'm so nervous and excited right now. You have this big notepad in front of you, which consists of like a 2x3 inch sticky note. What are the names on it?
Well, I just, of course, I just love to talk about myself, so I didn't want to repeat myself at all here. And I just wrote down a couple things that I thought might be of interest, and one of them is Jenny McCarthy. She, when she was in the height of her popularity, when she was the MTV star, when she was the host, and she was a household name, and she still may be, don't get me wrong. But they hired her to do, it was called Summer Beachin', and it was the summer promotion at the Music Land and Sam Goody stores. And I was a creative director for those stores at the time. And the department had many females in it. And for some reason, I was chosen by my female boss to take on the Jenny McCarthy campaign, which I had absolutely no problem with. And especially I think I was about 28 years old, maybe a little older. But they sent in this photo shoot of her on this in a bikini and with the beach ball posing in all these different ways, so I could use that on the signage in the store. And we made another CD with like the beach. It was summer songs. It was CD compilation, and then every celebrity that had a tie-in with the store would come and do a signing at the Mall of America, because that was the biggest Sam Goody store. And so she came in town, and I cannot remember his name, but she was married to her manager at the time. He was with her, but he was a little overprotective of his very attractive girlfriend. And we came walking into the Mall of America right when it opened, 8:30, whatever time it was. And there was a line at the door. And we just walked in, and we kept walking, and this line kept going. It was like half a mile long, and it was all teenage boys and some older guys in there. It was all guys waiting to get Jenny McCarthy's autograph.
Hey, I think that's Bill Sherck in the line.
Yeah. You were in the front. I was so impressed. And so we walk all the way up, and then as we're getting closer and we get into the store, I just remember some of the looks I was getting from these guys, like, what in the world is going on? And I was just so proud of myself at the time. And we my boss and I and some other people, we get to the back room, and she's sitting on the floor, and she's signing some posters for people and everything. And they introduce her to me. And she looks up at me, and she's like, "Oh, Jeff, it's so good to meet you. Thank you for making me look so good on these signs. And I just looked at it, and all I did was cut and paste those photos. I didn't do
Well,
it.
how do you respond to
Yeah,
that?
I didn't do a thing. I think it was all you and God, maybe. I don't know who it was. But she was just so nice and just so, thankful about everything. And that was one job where I truly just put her picture on there and said music sale or whatever it was, and it sold itself.
Sure.
But she was much fun. It was a lot of fun to meet, and we went to lunch after that, and not just she and I, but the group, and it was a good time. But then I returned back to Musicland the next morning, and she had also done an appearance in Playboy at that time. And I must have had 15 of that same issue stacked up on my desk. So I think everyone in the building that knew I was a part of it brought me their husband's issue or whatever it was. I just had far too many of them and in the wrong situation.
Could you have that signed for me,
I
please?
just kind of swept them off into the garbage can and got them out of there.
And this is the life you were just living. So I want to keep this moving forward because there's an outdoor element to all this.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's been years and years of this music stuff, and when I started painting in college, and kind of learning about acrylics and oils and everything, right away I started painting fish, and then to tie it back to the music thing, I was painting fish with a PH for my friends that are fans of the band Fish. And that just I just started creating my own fish and making my own stuff and things of interest. And I've grew up loving Les Cuba, and he was part of the church that we belonged to, and just surrounded with his stuff my whole life. But I never had this goal of creating realistic art. That's just not who I am or what I do. So when I was painting fish, they always just became something from the depths of the ocean that nobody's seen yet. But it's people have been attracted to it, and it's worked out that way. But the fish and I think before when we talked, years of making hats for our fishing trips and all that, kind of just came back from fly fishing with my friends in Montana and everything. And I had mentioned it was my first rainbow trout I pulled out of the Missouri River and held it for a minute before my friends yelled at me to get it back in the water, and was like, oh, I gotta paint this thing. This is amazing. And the hat, I think I painted my friend a hat as a thank you gift for that trip, and posted it on social media years ago, and things just kept soaring, so to speak, from there. And then Scott at the Fly Box, I was introduced to him through another friend, and he saw the hats and asked for a few, and then the show came on, and things just kept going, and they keep going. I just did 3 more this last week. It ties back to everything I enjoy doing and everything I've done in my life that I want to still be a part of. Music is more than a creative outlet of things to create, to make things for. But it and I don't know how to word this exactly right, but it loses a little personability. It's not as, you're creating it for a band, where when you're painting fish and are making somebody a hat, you're doing your own thing. And there's a lot more freedom in that on an art side of things that I enjoy and help me to keep doing what I'm doing.
And I can remember seeing that first black hat sitting in that fly shop and seeing that fish and not looking at that hat like, oh, this is just another hat. I want to. It was boom. Oh my gosh, look at that. That is unbelievable, right? Just
I love that.
instantly drawn to that fish out of the depths of the oceans, which nobody has seen, which I think, if I'm reading into this, is your soul or
Yes,
what's
yes.
left of it after life on the road. But it's your way of connecting, right?
It's true. And there's something, obviously nature, everyone has some connection and something to do with nature, right? And animals and fish are extremely interesting, and nobody knows what a fish thinks. Nobody knows what a deer thinks. Everyone thinks they do, but it's such a broader audience, if that's a good way to say it, of people that you can connect with or get their attention, and it is more from the soul or from the heart, I think, and then that's not to say that the other work isn't, but when you're a simple way to put that is if you're creating something for country music, you're only hitting those people that are into country music. But if you're creating a piece that just has kind of this natural beauty to it, it's just open, and anybody, a 3-year-old to a 103-year-old, it can give you a feeling where the music work also can, but it's a little more specific to what you might be interested in. But it's for me, it's I can't see an end to it. I can always come up with a new crazy fish, and I can always do my best to interpret a bluegill for someone or whatever it is. It's not going to be the same thing where logos and graphics and things are kind of a repetition of the same thing.
Mm-hmm. I have a challenge for you, and I also want to talk about owls.
Yes.
But first, I want to thank a couple of sponsors. I hope you're enjoying this episode. I know I sure am. It's just, Jeff, your life and your story and, your professional hobbies are just incredible to me. Jealousy is a big thing here. But first, before we get back to your story, let's thank a couple of our sponsors here. And one of them is a biggie for me. Here in Minnesota, cabin life is a way of life. It has been for the Sherck family for a long time, like 40 years, since I was long before thinking about Jane McCarthy. Fishing, it's the boat rides, the evenings on the dock, the grilling out, the loon call at sunrise. It's all the things we love about life up north. But our family just experienced a big change at the cabin. We have coped with that sulfury smelling, sour tasting cabin well water since I was just a little kid. But guess what? It all disappeared like 2 weeks ago, thanks to our brand new Connecticut water softener and K5 drinking water system. The install literally took like 4 hours and completely changed our cabin water legacy. No more smell. It's gone. The drinking water tastes incredible. No more bottled water. Soap and shampoo, they now foam in the cabin shower. It is all thanks to Connecticut. I want you to call Connecticut like the Sherck family did and schedule your consultation and look forward to clean, safe water. Truly, it's that simple. Also, we want to thank our friends at Star Bank.
Hi there, Ron Shera here for Star Bank. If you're putting your money into mega banks down the street, who knows where that money's being used? Bank locally. Keep your money local with a community bank that actually cares about you, your family, your business, and your goals. Check out the bank we use at Minnesota Bound. Try Minnesota's own Star Bank. You can find them online at starbank.net. When you call Star Bank, you actually hear a real living person answering the phone. Star Bank has 10 convenient locations around Minnesota to serve you and all the mobile banking products that you need to manage your money. Check out all that Star Bank has to offer at starbank.net.
All right, so we're getting back to Jeff Troldahl's cult following hats. Like, people beg to just touch one and have one. And it's not like you are mass producing these things. There aren't hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. It's when you decide you have time to work on something. How do you describe what these fish look like? I mean, I know exactly what I'm looking at when I see them.
I would say, oh man, that's a great question. Anything from like I think I kind of start out with the idea of either a brown or a rainbow trout to start if I'm in some sort of elongated body species, and then if I have some new colors and paint, then I'm in trouble. Or if it just happens. I don't know. And I think if I figured it out, it might slow it down. Mm-hmm. But I just kind of go with it. And, I've had quite a few people that want, a very specific bass, or they'll send me a photo of something they caught, and they want this northern on their hat. And I do my best to interpret that. But the majority of them, just kind of have this Jeff Troldahl thing to them. I don't know what that is.
I know it's yours.
Yeah, which I guess is good and bad. It's good, but I don't know.
They're colorful.
They're very colorful. They're usually spotted. They all have the same lip. I'm not always over worried about exact placement of fins, but they're there and they'll work. It kind of comes down to the eye. There's something about the eyes on fish, and there's artists out there that recreate like the actual pupil of a fish. And if you've ever looked at one close, they're not round. And they've got this shape to them, and there's so much going on. And I keep mine really simple. I have this kind of cartoon feeling. I'll do like a colored eye with a big black pupil and some highlights on it. But once I do that, the whole thing comes together. And then I go back over it, with like a lighter pen or something, and put in bones in the fins or whatever it just happens. And I don't know why. That's a terrible answer.
No, but I've been lucky enough to watch you paint, and you just start and you just go almost like you're following this path, and you don't know where it leads. And sometime later, boom.
Yeah.
Perfection.
I hope it's perfection. I think too, like when I first start, and the shape of the body tends to steer a lot. Like I was mentioning before, if it's like a long, skinny fish, then I'm kind of leaning towards the trout. And if you got something round like a panfish, then it's get into that bluegill pumpkin seed colors and crappies, all that. But it just really depends. But if you look at them all at the same time, which I've never done, but I've seen quite a few of them together, they've all got the same face. They've all got this lip and eye that go together. So even though they're vastly different, they seem to all come from the same family. If again, doesn't make any sense, but they just happen.
The same could be said for your owls. When I see a Jeff Troldahl owl, I know exactly where it's from. And there's a story behind those too. You love owls.
Absolutely. I have been painting owls for, oh gosh.
Who knows how long?
Yeah, it has been years. 2000, I think 2011 is when I really got into it. Is when my father passed away.
Yeah,
and,
tell the story. This is an incredible tale.
So my dad passed away. 8 years after my mom, and he was kind of just doing his thing and not doing things, just getting by, and the house kind of got piled up, so to speak. And when he passed on, my brother and I were there and cleaning everything up, and then my wife and I decided to move in and start our family and keep the house and the family. And I found, cleaning one day, I found this owl painting that my father had done probably in the 60s and maybe 50s, 60s. And he was a hobby artist and not a professional artist. And this owl had been out over time when we were younger, so I remembered it, but I didn't ever really look at it. And I ended up hanging it in my studio, and on a daily basis was looking at it, passing by it, and all these things. And then one of the bands I was working for, Government Mule, had a show at the zoo, and I just, for some reason, I'm like, I got to do an owl. Like, this is perfect. It's Minnesota, it's the zoo, it's all fit together. And I, if for those who have seen the poster, the owl's eyeballs are the logo of the band, so it really tied in together. But that poster was released at that show and sold faster than anything I've ever sold before. And then for a few weeks after, and actually till now, I guess, people have been asking me or commissioning me for owl work. And I absolutely love owls and everything about them, but I'm not a overly educated person on owls. I don't paint them by breed, and don't paint them by, if that's the right word, by species. I just paint owls, and like the fish, they just turn out how they turn out. And I think, too, again, back to that, people who paint realistic paintings and people who paint abstract or impressionistic paintings or whatever, that's where I take that artistic privilege and just kind of create an owl that if you saw it, somebody might have to report it and catch it and figure out what the heck it is.
So I want to go back. So growing up, there's this painting of this owl in your house. At what point did you realize that it was your dad, who was a corporate guy, right? Wore the suit and had the office and all that. But do you remember at what point you realized that was my dad's work? He created that?
Yeah, well, I think I knew it was his. He never pushed or not. Pushed isn't the right word. He just never showed off his art skills. But my parents were big crafters, and they made all sorts of things, whether it was for church or sports teams or garage sales or whatever. My parents were always crafting stuff, and my dad was painting. We have all these toys from when we were kids, or toy barrels and things that my dad made, and they're just amazing. But he never, I don't remember him saying when I was 8 years old, like, remember that barrel I made that you poured your Kool-Aid into and ruined, or what? I don't remember any. It wasn't big on pushing it, but it was there. And my brother also has talent, but that wasn't his thing. And he made me a birthday card when we were kids, and it was Dino Cicerelli picking the upper corner and a pencil drawing. And I remember I looked at it, and I didn't believe he did it. And I was like, you paid someone to do this. You didn't do this. And then finally he convinced me he did it. And then I realized, like, if he can do it, then I got to be able to do this, and kind of went into it. But nobody, like, there's a lot of creativity in my family, but nobody ever really pushed it. So it wasn't a secret, but it wasn't a thing. So when that painting came back and I found it, my dad's name is in the corner of the canvas too, but I knew what it was. But I had just never been so attached to it. and so, wanting to see it, I guess, and having my father not here obviously made that a big part, and I think too maybe I was kind of just trying to do what he did when I was looking at it and redrawing, because I should go back on that too, because his owl has this kind of sorrow look to it, sad face. Mine are all mad, and they're not mad on purpose, but this is how I do the eyes, and it's kind of got this angry bird look to it. And I've had a few people ask me that, like, "What's going on? Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." Like, but those birds are so mad.
They're just intense.
They're thinking.
I'm about to end you.
But yeah, so it was just always one of those things, but I appreciate it more now than ever that he was the way he was, and that he made those things. I think he did a lot more of it when he was younger, maybe before my brother and I were around, that kind of thing, which I'm learning now with my kids. It's real hard to sit down and draw for 6 to 8 hours a day with children. Mm-hmm. Especially when they want to draw on what you're drawing.
Funniest thing, isn't it? Hey, Daddy.
Oh, yes.
So I told you I'd challenge you.
Uh-oh.
No, it's all good.
Good.
You started with the hats sort of out of convenience, right? You had all these unused band hats and went, an empty canvas. I should do something with that. So I saw the other day, and you talked about this in junior high or high school, you were painting Converse tennis shoes.
Absolutely.
I saw the most unbelievable pair of Vans shoes, which for anyone who knows Vans, they're an old school skateboarding shoe. Oddly enough, little side hustle here. When we lived in California from like 1979 to 1981, my dad was one of the computer guys in the Silicon Valley. So this Minnesota kid moves out to California, of which Vans were a thing back then. And we moved back to Minnesota, and I've got Vans shoes, and everyone's making fun of me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because they didn't exist here at that point. Everyone called them Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, those slip-ons.
You've got Mr. Rogers shoes. And like 3 months later, Vans exploded in the Midwest. But Vans are these solid colored shoes. Some of them are all white. It's an empty canvas. And I saw the coolest fish pattern on a pair of Vans. And I instantly thought of you and went, oh my gosh, why isn't he painting shoes?
Absolutely.
I mean, I suppose that happens all the time, right? There are 100 blank things in this world, a million of them.
It's true.
You look at it and go, I could fill that with color.
Well, or like the coffee cup, you just never know. There's that I've painted everything from Yeti cups to jean jackets and things like that. But the Vans shoe, there's quite a bit of artists that do that. Not the fish stuff, but they paint those shoes. The problem with shoes and clothing is size. So for someone like myself, if somebody was to ask for a custom pair of shoes, no problem, because I know exactly what size they need. But for me to paint shoes,
sure,
and it'd say I paint a 9 and you're a 9.5 or a 10, and you want those shoes, and I got to paint another size and keep those. Not have to, but it just gets a little confusing. Where hats, they just adjust right on the back.
Sure.
So it's a easier thing to sell without a commission.
Okay.
But and that too, I have been lucky enough where people have been requesting hats, where I haven't just decided to paint 5 bass hats and 5 northerns and 4 brown trouts and stock up.
People call you now.
Yeah, and I think it makes it better for it makes it more personal for me and for the person that's receiving the hat.
It's one of a kind.
Yeah, and I'm working on it for them. It's not something I just have sitting waiting for them to pick it. Which doesn't say that's wrong either, but it just kind of makes the process a little more fun and more personal.
I cannot wait till I see your next great moment.
Me neither.
Because I'm the silly, like I'm still the kid, the crayon eating kid, right? And everything I look at, or on my drift boat, oh my gosh, Jeff could paint something on that. The drift boat itself, oh my gosh, Jeff could paint something. Like, I don't know why.
I love it.
I'm intrigued by all that stuff.
I love it.
All right. For people who want to find your work or find you, how do they do that?
I'm on social media, of course. I'm on Instagram under my name, Jeff Troldahl, or Trodies. And my website is jeffsart.com.
All right. I'm looking at my phone right now, not because I am ignoring you, but because the last podcast I did, we talked about camping.
Yes.
And secret spots. And I'm glad you get to share in this. And I put a shout out to people to share some of their favorite secret spots. And there's a story. This guy over here, the guy with the big beard and the headset and the big, massive panel with all the buttons next to us, that is Brandon Morton, who is our engineer / producer, kind of the conduit, the brains of the podcast. But he has a nickname. Yeah, this is
my time to shine.
You've just been sitting
the Swiss Army knife of audio.
Swiss Army knife of audio. So I put a shout out and said, hey, tell us about your favorite secret spot. Get back to me. And if so, maybe we'll hand out a Swiss Army knife. So I have to make good on that promise. And I have 2 emails here. The very first 2 that came in. The first was from Mark Engie. I want to read this. Enjoy the podcast. Hey, my favorite campsite is number 14. He's very specific at Crosby Manitou State Park. It is close to the end of the trail, so it's more secluded, which I love. We talked about this, that I love getting away from the fray. It's in an oxbow on the Manitou River, so it's surrounded by water and has good brook trout fishing.
Ooh.
Something that's sort of dear to your heart. So I'm going to have to figure out how to get a Swiss Army knife to Mark. Also, at the same time, I got an email from Mike Morgan. Hey, got your email from the podcast show, heard it last week, listened to every episode. I love that. I also tune in weekly to the YouTube page. It's weird that people follow us, right? But
it's great.
I'm so appreciative of that. Now, he was very detailed on his entries, but camping spots, he's a South Dakota guy. They bought a camper. They've used Google Maps. They've been all over the place, Lake Oahe, all these. But for their annual Boundary Waters trip, so they make a trip over. And he's been going since the age of 11. He thinks 15 trips or so. He loves anything in the Boundary Waters. Finally, he offered up a couple of fishing spots. He talks about using Google Maps, just the old map that you get on the intranet, that thing you talked about, the World Wide Web, right?
Interweb.
And all he does is look at the island or look at the lake maps on Google Earth at the place they're going to visit in the Boundary Waters, and he can see the reefs. He can see the sunken islands from those satellite photos, and that's how they figure out where to fish. And guess what? They catch fish.
Yes. Good.
So I think that is brilliant advice. So I will figure out a way to get Mike Moran a Swiss Army knife as well.
Perfect.
So there you go. People are listening to us. We sure appreciate folks listening. Jeff, I appreciate your story. Before you go, do you have any bucket list outdoor trips?
Oof. You've
You've been all over the place.
I have so many that I would be so willing to go on. I had some friends that were talking about fishing in Alaska this summer, which sounds amazing. Another buddy, I couldn't make it, but wanted me to go out to Wyoming and do some serious deep camping and fishing. And
What'd you say? Like, I'm sorry, I can't make it. Beyonce needs me.
I sent him a picture of my calendar, and he sent me back a laughing emoji with tears. And he's like, "Yeah, my kids are old now."
Grateful Dead. Jennifer McCarthy. Blues Traveler.
No, this was lacrosse, soccer, hockey, lacrosse, soccer.
Oh, that calendar.
Yeah, that calendar. But it, I don't know if I have any one specific place I'm looking to get to. I'm just looking to go everywhere kind of deal. And I'm just entering that phase where my oldest son is getting old enough to join me. And it's time to start doing some camping and fishing training, get him on a fly pole and the whole works.
And it's amazing because those trips can be 20 minutes at the pond next to the house, and they're just as profound as Wyoming.
Oh, yeah. We were in Baxter on the dock, and I taught him to hold a sunny, and I think we held every sunny in that lake that day. It was fantastic. Fantastic. I have a question before you kick me out of here. What fish pattern were you thinking on your shoes?
Anything I can catch. I don't even know how to answer that. Everything is amazing, right? Like you said, you picked up that rainbow trout. Everyone asks, what's your favorite fish? What's your favorite thing? It's the next one.
Yeah, that's
right?
true. That's the greatest answer I've ever heard.
Right? Pike are incredible. Smallmouth bass have these stripes that are amazing. You know, Brady Sherck and I were back in the woods last week catching brook trout. Their colors are out of this world. I mean, you and I caught perch together, and you looked at that perch and went, that's amazing. I need to paint that, right?
It's true.
And they're beautiful. It's just.
They all are. There's even that conjuncted scale spot on a carp. Have you ever seen that? If next time you see a carp, and I can't remember which species it is, but there's this spot on them that the pattern just leaves, and it looks like they just tied him up and let him go kind of deal, and it's awesome. I don't know what it is, but it's awesome.
And I think that is maybe, it's going to sound a little thick, why we love the outdoors so much. There is beauty everywhere.
Everywhere.
For me, it's not about the biggest fish. It's not about me catching more fish than you. It's just that moment, seeing them, looking at them.
Yeah.
Right? I had the boys in the drift boat this weekend, and they caught some really nice big smallmouth bass, but Brady caught this little 10-inch dinker. And I pulled it out of the net, and I took the fly out of its mouth, and he went, no, I want to hold it. And he put that little fish in his hands, and he just looked at it.
Yeah.
For 5 seconds before he put it back in. And I watched that and went, yes.
Yeah, it's amazing.
He's got it.
It's amazing.
Yes. They're all incredible.
Yeah, my son was chasing minnows up north, and I, all of a sudden he's like, "This is a bass," and he was figuring out what was what, and I just love it. Love it.
Now, if I just knew how they think or what they think about, like you said.
Or how to get them to go to bed.
I was talking about the fish, not the kids.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Jeff, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Well, there you go. The Man About the Woods, Bill Sherck. That is the story behind the story, the Minnesota Bound podcast. Of course, you can find Jeff's television story online. Just punch in his name and Minnesota Bound, and it pops right up. Beautiful, beautiful work. Hey, I want to thank all the people who help us make the Minnesota Bound podcast happen each week. The stories behind the stories, presented by Connecticut Water Treatment Systems. You know, my family uses Connecticut. Yours should too. We'd like to thank the Minnesota Historical Society. Also, Oreo and Ritz, Hewitt Docks, Star Bank, the bank we use at Ron Sheriff Productions, and the Minnesota Propane Association. And don't forget to bag your limit this fall in North Dakota. Visit legendarynd.com to plan your visit. Jeff, do you know what we say at the end of Minnesota Bound? Don't forget to introduce a kid to the great outdoors.